SMGTNT, in association with the State of African Diaspora, SOAD, presents Lumi Matters each Wednesday at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Hosted by Janet Lovely, International Business Development Officer, and a representative for the Lumi via Canada. Learn how the Lumi matters in business, barter exchange, travel investment, saving accountability. Listen to the insiders about Lumi Matters each Wednesday at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Only on Freshradiovybz. Listen now and stay connected. Lumi Matters. Lumi.
This is a public announcement. A tree without its roots shall die, and a nation without its identity can never prosper. The Nyankipong Sovereign Maroon Global Tribal Nation Territories, partners of the UN ILO Indigenous and Tribal People Convention, have your identification card. Get it now. Your nationality as a Maroon sovereign person give you the protection of the laws of the rights that you deserve. Application forms are available now. In the USA, contact Representative Russ Gadites at GADIETHZ Gadites@gmail.com, or call them at 1260-209-8730. Contact the Jamaican head office at 1-876-605-7987 or 1-876-773-4594. Visit our website at nyankipongmaroonsovereignState.org. Call, sign up now. United we stand with the Nyankipong Maroon Sovereign State. This is powered by Freshradiovybz and the Nyankipong Sovereign State. Now the dream has become a reality.
Study to show yourself approved. Make sure you can handle the truth. Shoot about the money. Telling you the truth about the money. Yeah. You want to shoot for the money? Only if you know the truth, man. Okay. Shit. In the 1940s, money and gold were a couple. Everything did work well until America started hustling. The other countries start shuffling, demanding back them gold on the double. Now in 1971, President Nixon made the money and the gold decouple. Now them money no back to buy nothing, when it used to be back to buy gold. But they keep lying to the people. Now finally the truth has been told. Them make a fiat currencies, no transparency. Now a Lumi we spending, backed by renewable energy. Lumi, tell you about the Lumi. It's not a fiat, nor a cryptocurrency. It's underwritten by 100 kilowatt hours of solar energy. Shit, convertible to 4 grains of gold. Wait, 0.2592 grams. No, a 15.96 USD. No back to buy nothing, but it used to be back to buy gold. But they keep lying to the people. No finance gold. Them little fiat currencies, no transparency. No aluminum is spending, backed by renewable energy. Shit, I was chosen to shine the west from the south and from the east, man. Africa are not wrong. Me no need no US, me no need no pound. The Lumi dollars put diamonds on the crown. I don't give a damn who on the throne, cause I'm not small, I'm fully grown. Hey, the money no back to buy nothing, when it used to be back to buy gold. But they keep lying to the gold. Them little fiat currencies, no transparency. No aluminum we spending, backed by renewable energy. Them money no back to buy nothing, used to be back to buy gold. They keep lying to the people. Finally the truth has been told. We know our history. Them little fiat currencies, that's history. No transparency. No Lumi we spending. Lumi. Cheer.
Yeah. Grand rising to each and everyone. We are proud to have you back with us again another Wednesday. And after the trauma of last week, I think there's no disputing. Lumi matters. Lumi really matters. Talking about Lumi matters, we will be getting our host, Janet Lumley. She'll be coming on board. Dr. Linzus, I think I'm pronouncing his name properly, will be on board. Also, the very hard working Mike Larry, alongside the artist that is representing the Lumi. Let me take my hat off for the chief who came on last week and did very, very well. Thank you so much to Chief Samuka for making his presence felt and bringing this very important program inside of the bedrooms of brothers and sisters globally. I was watching the strategic input, and trust me, I could see where brothers and sisters all over planet Earth was just raveling inside of it. Talking about raveling inside of it, let's see if we can connect with Janet, because before we bring this on, she is very much, and she does apologize for last week not being available. She said that Gadites, this Lumi is working overtime, but we are going to get her on board, and hopefully we can get some answers from her this week. Remember, the Lumi Matters is brought to you by Nyamin's Restaurant. If you want to be a sponsor, please call us, and we will make it necessary for you to be on board. Let's see if we can wrap with some. I think Mike should be available. The engineer is lining up everybody as we speak, and we are going to set that balance. Remember, Lumi Matters, it's the newest currency, one of the newest currency to really do our trading in and get familiar with. You know, you're buying house, you're buying cars, Lumi Matters. Talking about Lumi Matters, our engineer is telling us that the hardworking Mike Larry has just entered our studio. Grand Rising, Mike, how you doing?
Grand Rising to you and your guests.
Yes, the reach yet, Mike. I'm trying to get everybody on board, but you're first inside the studio. I don't know if you want to say anything about the guest that's coming, because I am totally just happy how this program is blossoming and bearing fruit.
And I'm really happy that Dr. Linus could take him time out from his busy schedule to plug in with us to give us that cutting edge angle of the switching platform and handling our Lumi money.
Yes.
To all your listeners, we're trying to get this out there to as many persons as possible, so that we'll be able to have this written in our story and in this time.
Documented, well documented. I'm trying to get Janet. I don't know what's wrong with her communication. I just spoke to her a while ago, and as the show starts, so these technological issues will pop up. I hope that unfortunate incident like what happened last week does not occur this week. Of course, you know that last week we had Chief Samuka on, and that was mind-boggling. That was really, really, really a blessing for last week.
Yeah, man. I went back and listened to that one also, because it was available last week either. So
yes,
I went back and listened to Chief Samuka. It's always a privilege to have the chief around us, even in the time he spent when he was actually on the island here in Jamaica.
Yes,
it was more than a privilege to have him. I'm seeing Dr. Line.
Yes.
Dr. Line.
Grand Rising, Doctor. How you doing? My name is Russ Gadai.
Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Boy, I'm doing because that's the only thing that matters right now with everything that's happening around us. And
that's fantastic.
Let me just welcome you to the program, by the way. Thank you so much, Dr. Linus. Of course, there's so much to be said about the work that you've been doing, and I'll allow you some time to introduce yourself. But of course, Mike Larry has said hi to you already. I don't know if you want to say hi to him and then do your introduction as to who you are.
Hello, Mike. It's a great pleasure to be on this excellent program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really,
Greetings.
really a pleasure to have you here. And Ras, I can tell you, Dr. Linus works around the clock. I personally had him a part of today,
Grand Rising, Grand Rising.
putting a whole lot of the projects together.
Grand Rising.
Grand Rising, Janet.
Grand Rising.
And so I'll hand the floor over to Dr. Linus to do the further introduction himself.
Thank you.
And good work.
Thank you very much. As you said, my name is Linus Ide. In terms of background, I'm the founder of Swiffen. It's an open transactions ecosystem. We have two objectives. One is to ensure access to all in order to drive financial inclusion. It is a huge problem around the world. It affects about 1.7 billion people. Within continental Africa, in some countries, over 91% or up to 91% of the people are excluded. And what we want to do is change that. Not sometime in the future, but in our time, through collaboration with people from all over the world, from all regions, so that we can work together to bring, to make a difference to the lives of these excluded 1.7 billion people around the world. And most importantly, to create an ecosystem that for the first time can connect people from within continental Africa across all the 54 countries and its diaspora that is distributed across the globe to be able to transact and exchange in and engage in exchanging value in real time. So that is the inclusive aspect of what we are doing. The second aspect is that of ensuring that there is a common movement of exchange amongst members of our community. And these are people who need to be able to exchange value, not just in real time so that they can participate in the modern digital economy, but also to address the challenging issues of the multiple currency problem within continental Africa. As you know, we have about 54 countries within continental Africa and over 40 different currencies. It is a nightmare for an ordinary person to navigate that landscape, particularly given the backdrop of the fact that today we have a common market, the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is set to be one of the greatest wealth creation opportunities of our time. But we run the risk of, one, not being able to operationalize it effectively without a common and effective instrument of exchanging value across all the countries. And two, we run the risk of leaving behind a whole population or a substantial part of the population across these 54 countries who will not be able to effectively participate in this common market without a single instrument of exchanging value. We're very excited about the prospects of driving both inclusion and providing a common instrument of exchanging value at the same time. It is a first, and we're making excellent progress. Thank you very much for inviting me to the show.
Yeah.
It's a great pleasure to be.
Marvelous. Janet has just joined us. Of course, she's our international business developer, and she has contributed a lot to the Lumi. Janet, I'll allow you to have your say of introduction before we move forward.
Yes, so good evening, everyone.
Right.
Hope everyone is doing well. Our Grand Rising. I'm Janet Lumley, the International Development Officer that was assigned in Canada to represent the Lumi, meaning, registration and all that wonderful stuff. I've been on the journey since 2020, I think in March not March, because it launched out in October. So I've been on the journey since 2021, about March. So I'm looking at about 2 years, and I'm listening to Dr. Linus keenly. Now, as a rep with the Lumi component, which is now through the Swiffen platform, I've been on it, trying my best to ensure that I'm getting people to sign up, doing what I can. And, this afternoon I had a dialogue with Dr. Linus, which, I'm very pleased based on what he shared with me where this Swiffing is going, and also the currency that was created for us persons of African descent. All I can say, I had to let him know I commend them for their great work, because it takes a lot. Initially, when we started, it was Swiffing.com, where we would go and register the 28th of every month. We would get our Lumi religiously, until there was some transition over to the Connect.Swiffing platform. Then, some delay. But what I like with what they did, they also give us some incentive to kind of give us an incentive, for our waiting, the delay, and all of that. So they've been giving us a lot of incentives. On the platform, there's also a briefing for individual who wants to find out more about the Swiffing platform. But you go into the connect.swiffing.com. There you see on that front page, you see the briefing every day. And he also confirmed that today. So every day at about 1:30, based on where you are in the world. So we are on the EST, the Eastern Standard Time. I'm in Canada, US, and Jamaica. You can go there to connect into that platform, which is 6:30 in UK time, right? So there you go. Any question that you have, they're there to answer all the questions. But I was also discussing with Dr. Linus, and Dr. Linus, thank you so much. And I must big up Mike Larry for also make this possible today. So Dr. Linus, I thank you so much for being there from the get-go of the inception of this Swiffing platform, which is where once you sign up, you have access to your Lumi. So I'm not sure how much, because I came in a little bit late, but I must share that the Lumi is backed by gold, and Dr. Linus can reiterate a little bit on what that gold representation means. So it is backed by gold, and it is also backed by solar energy, which is amazing, having those commodities, in our back pocket, to use. So I'm going to just turn over. I have a few more questions that I would love to ask Dr. Linus in terms of the Swiffing platform.
Okay. While I want to thank you so much, we're going to get into that. I'm going to get a reminder of why we're here tonight. We have on our panel tonight the likes of Mike Larry, and he is very much connected with the Lumi. Dr. Linus, he is out of this world when it comes onto the platform that has been put forward. Just to give you a bit of knowledge as to how much vibration is running through our airwaves right now. Dr. Linus is attached to the NCH, and the NCH announced that the appointment of Dr. Linus Etube as the lecturer in economics. He will be working closely with other members of the department, including various professors. Now, Dr. Etube started his career in investment management and private banking as a quantitative investment analyst at International Asset Management in the early 2001. He took up completing an enterprise risk management project with Robinson Stevens as part of a study to investigate the impact of effective risk monitoring and noting settlements and reconciliation of securities trading transaction. Now that is a whole mouthful right there, Dr. Linus, and these are some of the applications that bring us to where we are with the sweeping and your knowledge when it comes down to our money base. My first question to you is exchange, the sweeping with the Lumi tied up. Explain to me how did that all came about for you in particular?
All right. Okay. For me, actually, it has been it was a very interesting journey. Let me give you a bit of background. Actually,
yes.
I spent some time after my MBA at Imperial College working in the city, and you've cited some of the experience that I've had in that time. Now, when I left international asset management, actually, I joined an asset management, a family investment house. And I was responsible for, I was the investment manager, and I set up a Luxembourg-listed fund, which was responsible for investing globally. Now, being a Pan-African, at heart, and at that particular time, there was another opportunity, which was China was soaring, and everybody was looking at the fact that the next opportunity for the greatest investment returns would be from the African continent, given its young population, its vast resources, and the fact that they're starting from a low base of economic growth. And so all investment managers globally were looking towards Africa as the next phase of great investment return after China. And so I set out to travel into the continent looking for investment opportunities as an investment manager. Now, one of the things, and this is a very interesting story because it is one of the things that really transformed the way that I looked at what we need to be doing as a continent in order to drive access to all. I visited the project, Did Not Invest. This was at this time in Rwanda. And the idea was centered around the possibility of giving each person that is born, their ID card, which is a natural national identity card that everybody gets. But the idea was centered around making that identity card a banking card, so that the moment you reach a certain age and your ID is issued, you automatically have access to a banking service, and you can use your ID card to execute transactions. I have to say that I was completely I was so excited about that prospect that when I left, even though I did not invest, but I can tell you that was the genesis of setting up the Swift platform. So when I left, it then dawned onto me that, well, we are dealing with a continent, within continental Africa, 54 countries, 1.4 billion people, probably one of the richest continents on earth. But in the same continent, you have some of the poorest people. In the same continent, you have over or up to 91% of people who are excluded, who could not use the existing banking system to participate in the real economy. For me, that was an eye-opener right there, that we needed to come up with a solution that could address the specific challenges and the specific problems of the continent without relying on any important solution may or may not solve or address the problems and the challenges of the people where they are. There was another spark that really opened my eyes. The spark was, I was talking to a bank manager, and this time it was Cameroon. I had gone home and I'd gone to visit the bank manager, and I was privileged enough, I could ask for a Visa or MasterCard, so I asked for one. And I went to pick it up. Now, he was a friend, and so we sat down and we were chatting, and he explained to me how the bank had lots of money, and this is one of the largest banks in the country, and that they were not lending the money. They have vast reserves. And I sat back, being an investment manager and a banker myself, I sat back and I couldn't understand why. So I asked him, I said, but why do you have such vast amounts of money and you're not lending? And yet there are businesses and individuals that really could benefit from the credit. And his answer was, he sat back in his chair, he laughed. Okay, I can never forget this story. He laughed. He said, but hey, doctor, how can you lend money to somebody who tells you that if you go up the hill and you turn left, there is a yellow house, and opposite the yellow house, there is a house that is painted in green, and behind that, that's where I live. And that's what he said.
Yes.
Quoting his words precisely. Now, that's the reality on the ground. Many people find themselves in areas where there isn't a traceable address system. It's not their fault. And that's the result of that. Existing institutions which are set up to provide and serve them in a particular way, within a particular context, using particular benchmarks like the address, you turn around and say, but we can't help you. And so you have a small handful of people who can prove that either they are employed by the government, and those are the people that get access. A small handful of people who can prove that they are employed by a particular company, and the company can vouch for them, those are those that get access. The one thing people forget...
Oh, continue, please.
And yes, the one thing people forget, and this is the reality on the ground, that the vast majority of economic participants in the continent are small-scale traders and entrepreneurs and sole traders. And so these people never get a chance to grow their business and scale it.
Yes.
That's why we have the challenges of economic growth that we have.
Yes.
Access and the use of a common instrument of exchange. That's what we are solving.
Hold it right there. We are going to get a small word from our sponsors. In case you're just joining us, we have the distinguished pleasure of hosting Dr. Linus' son, eTube, and he is very much the creator of the Swipping platform. For those who are wondering what the Swipping platform, it's about our own currency, the Lumi. The Lumi matters, and it matters in our day-to-day transaction, whether it be finance, whether it be purchasing, merchandising, whether it be anything when it comes on to trade. This is where you need to get it from. I have a question for you. I'm going to find out how the Lumi and, of course, the Doctor and the Maroons with a Kong Pong Town get all started. Just let me get this word in to remind our brothers and sisters what's going on, and then but keep it right here. It's all about Lumi Matters. We'll be right back in a minute. Don't touch the dial.
Fresh Radio Vibes and SMGTNT in association with the State of African Diaspora, SOAD, presents Lumi Matters each Wednesday to 7 p.m. Hosted by Janet Lovely, International Business Development Officer, and a representative for the Lumi via Canada. Learn how the Lumi matters in business, barter exchange, travel investment, accountability. Listen to the insiders about Lumi Matters each Wednesday, 7 p.m. Only on Fresh Radio Vibes. Listen now and stay connected. Lumi Matters. Lumi Matters.
Yeah, welcome back to Lumi Matters. Doctor, the inspiration for the Lumi. A question came up prior to us going to break, was the merger of the Swiffing platform, the Lumi currency, and the Maroon. Would you mind explaining to our brothers and sisters that sort of ingredients that has evolved to really bring forth this currency that we're talking about?
It is actually quite interesting that you asked that question. Thank you very much. They say that it's like the stars aligning or the stars aligning. I mean, because in the respective rights, as I've indicated, we as Swiffen, we were on a journey to try and address particular issues.
Mm-hmm.
So access was one of them. But at the same time, even if you address the problem of access, within continental Africa, for example, you still have the problem of 40 different currencies. And we needed a single instrument of exchanging value. And so, in fact, within the African continent, of course, there are 5 economic regions, and the economic region of the African diaspora, ECO6, is the 6th economic region. And when the ECO6 set up its currency, the Lumi, and decided that they needed this to roll out, we had a conversation, and I can tell you it was like a perfect match, because these are challenges that we've been looking at, and it seemed as though the missing piece of the puzzle had just been brought into place. So I had a call with our very magnificent Majesty, His Majesty King Simako, and in that conversation, there was the ECO6 was planning stimulus payments, but for some reason we were running very close to the deadline. I mean, we started sometime around the beginning of October. The conversation, had a few meetings, decided that this is something that is a must do, and we got to work and decided to get it done. Of course, the plan was to start the stimulus payment, and this is a bit of insight. On the I think we said we were going to start it on the following month or something like that. But by the time we finished and everything was in place, the 28th was just around the corner, and we said, okay, fine, it's got to go up immediately. We have no time to waste. And that's how we came to choose the 28th as the date when the stimulus payment is paid. But the Lumi comes from the ingenuity of Chief Simako, who, in fact, he's a prominent banker in his own right, and he's an absolute genius. I remember the first time I had a conversation with him. I may or may have mentioned this to him. Quite frankly, and if I'm permitted, I'm going to use some words to describe the experience and the encounter.
Yes.
After the conversation, I turned to my wife and I said, yes, I have somebody who has the guts to do what it takes for us to achieve what we need to do. And that's how we started. And it was like, pouring, the spark was there, the alignment was there, the vision was completely aligned. And it was as if this is what we have all been working so hard for all these years. And now it all comes together for us to really begin the process of reaching our people and ensuring that they have both access and they have a single instrument of exchanging value in the form of the Lumi. And later on in the program, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Transact, which is the old transformational tool that was created just to ensure that complete local currency experience, so that people who are familiar in using those 40 currencies, for example, across continental Africa, can continue to do it in their familiar way.
Yeah.
But now, for the first time, using nothing else but a singular instrument of exchange, which is the Lumi, the African Kingdom's Lumi.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. This is a interaction that is going to be building as we go along. People, we're speaking with none other than Dr. Linus, of course. Mike Larry is with us the same way, and of course Janet Lumley is also with us. Just to give you a bit of insight, Dr. Linus also carries a Bachelor England in Mechanical Engineering, University College in London. In 1994, he became the Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering, University College in London, and in 1998, postgraduate in Imperial College, London, since 2000. Now, Mike, I wonder if I can allow you some space. You may want to interact with the doctor. You may have a prescription to fill as or something you want to say. You can have your chance now.
Well, thank you very much. And let me welcome all your listeners and your listenership.
Yes, sir.
That is on here, because I'm seeing my phone blowing up. Quite a bit of person is listening to us all here. Well, I met Dr. Linus maybe about 3 years now, Doc. And ever since that day, Doc has become one of my mentors when it comes on to the Swiffing platform, to understand the Swiffing platform and its purpose. Now, I dived into this rabbit hole without any hesitation because I'm a businessman at heart. And I've run my own, operate and own my own business for years independently. I was not one of those guys who believed in having a job. I've always had businesses to produce whatever my income were. So when I saw the opportunity, I first saw a method of payment where my clients would be able to pay me freely without any interference of any, I have to call it the word, any central bank resisting taxation of all of that stuff. Now, I'm not one of those persons who differ against tax. But if you're going to tax me, I'd love to understand what my tax, if you're deducting my tax, what my tax really I used to do. So when I saw the Swiffing platform, I quickly understood what it meant. And I started to, go down into this rabbit hole. When I was introduced to Dr. Linus, we spoke for days. Continuously days we spoke. I was probably one of his students when it comes on to demonstrating how the Swiffing platform operates in its own space. And yeah, we had challenges. I was probably one of the first person to understood that we would never be able to build something like this magnitude without the level of challenges that we have had over the past 3 to 4 years coming till today. I understood most of that even up until today. When I was on the phone with Dr. Linus, we were there trying to iron out some other issues we had. Not issues, but, technical stuff that we were, put in place for Jamaica Luminaires. That's the organization that represents the Lumi here in Jamaica. I'm also a part of that. We were there to just iron out stuff. So Linus he wears many caps. A fantastic person to have conversation with. He would listen to you and he would get the time to really explain the purpose of what he built. And Chief Macpherson, who came up with the ideology behind the currency itself, to merge both of those, this will go down in history. That we have two serious genius among us today.
I think it is historical that we are talking here about our own currency. My brothers and sisters, one of the main problems that the monkey wrench that the corporation has thrown at us is that, as the doctor say, we as Maroon are one of the largest trading bloc on planet Earth. I'm talking about the people who are calling themselves black. We as Maroon, because I think that we have that appellation on, we have the biggest spending power. Now, what the Lumi is doing is connecting, and the genealogy as to what Chief Samuko and Dr. Linus and others have leaned on is that if we can find a common ground for us to love and care for each other, it's going to benefit us. Now, financially, when you look at the Lumi being used by the continent of Africa and other places to do business, and then this money, it comes through our hand. It is our money backed by our gold, and of course the sunlight, it is forever shining from we were conceived. So I think it's a win-win situation for us, and it's an historical time when we can actually access these opportunities. My next question to you, Doctor, is with the Swiffing, we're looking at the digital contribution of the Lumi. As you said, Chief Samuka not only wanted it to be digital, he wanted it to be tangible in a form of paper, for a better word, where we could exchange it and we won't be put in a corner where if the digital world should ever come to a close, we will be left in the dark. How important are those two recipes, the digital and the tangible, as in the cash money?
That's an excellent question. Thank you very much. But before I answer that, the first thing that I would add, which I know very well, was that there are three pieces to this magnificent puzzle. The first piece is the technology. The second piece is the currency. And the third piece, which is the most important piece, is the people, the communities. And this has become a movement, and it is on such a collaborative scale that is completely mind-blowing. And that collaborative scale is shown through some of the work, for example, that Mike Larry and the team at JLS in Jamaica have been doing and demonstrating the leadership in how to roll out currency for the first time. Just to add that what we are doing is a first. Now, since we started, a lot of central banks around the world have started talking about how they can use digital currency in order to deliver access to money in this century. Having said that, I think there are two important reasons why the digital part of the currency is vital. The first one is the fact that you can deliver instant access to many people. That has an advantage over the physical form of the currency, because if you take the physical form of the currency, you need to obviously design it, you need to print it, you need to make sure that it is completely secure, that it cannot be reproduced or counterfeited and all that. And then you need to ship it around so that it reaches the financial institutions that sit primarily as intermediaries for the distribution of money around the world. That is a very expensive and costly exercise. Mm-hmm. It is not really sustainable in the face of digitization because it's too expensive. It's insecure to a large extent, and there is possibility of loss of value, not in the same way that you might experience when you're using the digital part. Now, to talk more specifically about the digital part, it has its advantage in terms of mass distribution, and we have seen that ourselves. We are leading the way in distributing any centrally issued and distributed currency or community currency anywhere in the world. So we have a lot of experience and understanding in doing that. Having said that, there is another important element which we don't often talk about, and that is the element of actually using the digital form and other new instruments of actually controlling money flow within the economy in order to either slow down the economy or inject some additional liquidity within economies in order to control economic growth. And that is the all-important transaction rate instrument. That is something that I have talked about many times. Mm-hmm. The transaction rate instrument would be the game changer when it comes to using digital currencies in order to drive economies. And I can tell you that that is one of the reasons why central banks are probably going to make it one of the central, one of the to also deploy, even if they are not talking about it in that respect. Now, why is that important? It is important because if you think in terms of using interest rate as a central banking tool to control money flow within the economy, it only affects those that actually own or consume interest rate linked financial instruments. An example is a mortgage. So if you have a mortgage and the central bank increases rates, then you have to spend more to cover the cost of your mortgage. And therefore, because you are spending more to cover the cost of your mortgage, you have less money left as your household income to spend on other things. And therefore, they use that as a way of discouraging people to spend in the real economy. To cool down the economy, they increase interest rates, for example. Mm-hmm. Now, on the other hand, if they want households to have more money available at their disposal so that they can actually go and spend more, they can reduce interest rates. It means if the mortgage, which is the greatest household expense for many people, I'm not talking about those now who have other financial assets that are going to be impacted in terms of their value. It means that if the interest rate is reduced, your expenditure on your mortgage-linked instrument would actually be less. And if it is less, you have more disposable income, household income that you can spend on other things. So you can go out and do more shopping. Mm-hmm. And as you do more shopping, businesses produce more, they employ more people, those people earn more money, and that pumps more money into the economy, and that drives economic growth. Now, the dilemma that we have within continental Africa is that that instrument will never work The reason it will never work is that, one, you have 91% of people who are excluded from accessing financial services. They do not have interest rate linked products. They don't have mortgages. And so therefore, the central bank can increase interest rates or reduce interest rates all day long. It will not affect these people's household income, only to the extent that it affects their ability and appetite to borrow money to spend in the real economy. As a result, that will never work. Now, if you superimpose that with the story that I told you, that banks don't normally would lend to people who are excluded, then you realize that even on the lending side, in terms of accessing more money to spend in the real economy through borrowing, as a result of reducing interest rates, the idea is that money becomes cheaper and people can borrow more and spend more in the economy. And so if 91% of your population is excluded from accessing those loans, forget it. You can do whatever you like. It will not work. And that is why the use of the interest rate instrument within continental Africa and other emerging markets where financial inclusion is a problem does not work. It is an ineffective instrument. Now, if you look at it the other way and you introduce a digital currency which gives complete access to everybody, you can begin to use a different instrument to control the way that people spend money in the real economy. The transaction rate instrument, for example. With a transaction rate instrument, you can turn that on in the morning, and the next person that does a transaction the next minute, that has impact, okay? So it has direct impact on how money can flow and circulate within the economy. The one thing that I did not mention in respect to the interest rate use of the interest rate instrument is that the interest rate instrument is not direct. It relies on the intermediation institutions, like the financial institutions, like the banks. And so if, for example, the central bank were to increase rates or reduce rates, and the bank decides that they don't want to pass on that increase or that reduction to the customer, then the customer might not actually get the impact of the increase that the central bank wants. And therefore, the vast majority of the economy will not be touched by the objective of the central bank. And so you have a slowed down effect where it takes longer for what the desired outcome of any central bank is in an economy where there is a problem of financial inclusion. That is a fact.
Yes.
Now, that's something many people don't understand. But that's how that works.
Right now, you're telling us things, and that's why people, it's important to listen the show after we finish, because we will have all at hand to read a chapter every single Wednesday, and sometime by the time we finish reading the chapter, we'll give so much information that it will take another week to soak up all of this information so you can make sense of it, because it sounds like something new, but this is something that is moving us forward in a progressive manner. I will bring in Janet, because Janet said she had a few questions to ask you, but I would encourage you also, please, to go on the Google and punch in Lumi, Swiffin Lumi Maroon. You will get a lot of information. Also, you can check out Dr. Lena's site. I'm going to give you some insight to go there. You can find out the price of Lumi today within the US, how to withdraw from your Eco6 Lumi, withdraw from Swiffin to your bank account, launch of the Lumi currency. You will get to know about that. The Zimbabwe Swiffin, what is this Lumi currency? Understanding the value of the African Kingdom Lumi. But Janet, if you're available, you could ask a few questions, because we do have a bit more time with the doctor.
Yes, thank you, Garrett. And welcome again, Dr. Linus, to the Lumi Matters show. I've been on that journey for some time now, and it's great to have you in studio with us this afternoon. Now, one of the questions that I have for you, I know earlier you mentioned about an event that took place today in Bakalo. How do you pronounce that?
Bakaloko Kingdom in South Africa.
Right. Great. So you spoke of that event, and I was looking at it. It says it was an event with the Swiffin and the Lumi combination, and the first event was full, and then you had to have a second event. What was that event all about today?
That's a good question, actually. As you know, there is a lot of the Lumi actually is the African kingdom's Lumi, and the idea is that it is the currency that we can use to empower all the kingdoms across Africa. Remember, before the 1884 Berlin Conference, when the African continent was split into tiny, insignificant fragments, which form the countries that we know today. When I say tiny, insignificant fragments, I'm talking from in terms of economic power and the ability to compete at the world stage with the other economic powers like China and the United States and the European Union. None of the individual African countries can actually sit at the table with these super economic powers on a fair basis. And so they would always get a bad deal if they try and interact or come into trade agreements as individual countries. Now, the reality is that those boundaries did not exist before the Berlin Conference or before the whole era of colonization came into play with Mali and others across Africa, which were huge and significant in terms of their wealth and economic power. Those were dismantled. And so the idea is that we would use the Lumi and work with the kingdoms which today remain the custodians of the lands and those that actually the custodians of the lands and the cultures of the people. So by working with the kingdoms, we can restore that greatness for the continent and get each of the kingdoms to adopt and use Lumi as their de facto currency where they are. And so that effort has started bearing fruit based on a lot of extensive work that has been going on in the background. So the local kingdom in South Africa has effectively adopted the Lumi as their working currency or legal tender for use in their within their kingdom. And so today's exercise was part of a sensitization exercise where they were bringing people from various municipalities, in fact, from one municipality to start with, to tell them about the fact that they now have to register on the Swiffin platform to get their account and access their Lumi and be part of the ecosystem to be able to start using the Lumi to access goods and services. There is a very important thing that is going on in the Bakoloko Kingdom, and that is this idea of introducing a minimum wage level. And it's an opportunity to speak to Chief Simako and Paramount Chief Stephen Thomas, who have been working very hard at ensuring that these things are put in place. They can give you more color and tell you more about that. But the idea is simple, that if you are earning below the minimum wage, then you can continue to receive your South African wage, and the difference between your wage and the minimum wage, which typically would be a lot higher, then you would receive in Lumi for that. The event today was part of that. I understand, I wasn't there in person, but I understand the event was so popular, they had to have it in 2 sessions because the stadium was full. I sent you some pictures. It was actually quite remarkable. Yes. We sat on Zoom and somebody showed us with a camera what was going on the ground in the stadium. Phenomenal. But this is the kind of adoption that we need, the kind of drive that we need, the kind of collaborative work that needs to take place for us to drive the adoption of the Lumi into every household, into every business.
Yeah, that's amazing, Dr. Linus. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think that, you know, the Lumi is a very important tool. And I think you know, where we are, more specifically in Canada, how we adopt a system like that held today on this side of the in the diaspora? How could we set up something that we can a system like that?
The idea really is that we have a common instrument of exchanging value. And when I say common instrument of exchanging value, is that whether you're your old shoes or selling, buying a new handbag or getting a haircut or getting food from a restaurant, if the restaurant is part of the ecosystem, then you can go to the restaurant and buy your food and pay the restaurant in Lumi. Now, we recognize that if you are in Canada, then the food in the restaurant may not be priced in Lumi. It will be priced in Canadian dollars. If you are in South Africa, then the food in the restaurant will not be priced in Lumi. It will be priced in South African Rand. And if you visit all the 54 countries within continental Africa, you will come across over 40 different currencies as you travel. And so the question that we had was, how can we solve this problem permanently without relying on conversion? So we created Transact, and within Transact, you can get a complete local currency experience when you exchange value with other businesses. And therefore, that actually supports trade by barter. It supports actual exchange of goods and services amongst members of the community. The only caveat is that, of course, the restaurant has to be part of the ecosystem and willing and able and ready to accept Lumi as an instrument for the payment of the services and the food that they supply, for example. The same applies with all businesses. I have to emphasize that Transact it gives you complete local currency experience in the sense that if you are in Canada, you can press Canadian dollars and you can enter all your values in local Canadian dollar value. But the underlying instrument of exchange at every time is the Lumi. The beauty of it is, while sitting in Canada, whether that is in Toronto or wherever you are, you go to a restaurant and you do this, you can receive a call and still press Nigerian Naira and do a transaction with somebody in Nigerian Naira denominated values while sitting in your restaurant paying your bill in Toronto in Canadian dollars. And all of that is completely in real time. The moment you submit the transaction and you have the equivalent values to settle it, it goes and it is settled in real time. So what does that mean? It means that in Canada today, of course, you can use the account as it is and just transfer your Lumi as if you want. If you are comfortable with the equivalent amounts that you need to transfer for each invoice that you have to pay in Canadian dollars. Alternatively, you can transfer your value into Transact. And in terms of transfer, at the moment, the only place you can transfer your Lumi and have a local currency experience is into Transact. We don't have the ability for you to transfer your Lumi into any bank account yet. That will come when banks sign up to Transact and they become service providers within Transact. And at that point, just like you can go to a restaurant and buy a meal, you can go to a bank and pay the bank to access your local currency. So that's how we see the ecosystem evolving. Financial institutions that provide local services and local currencies would have to come onto Transact and sell what they are selling to the community on Transact, with a single instrument of exchanging value being the Lumi. And for us to be able to do that on a global basis in an inclusive fashion with nobody being left out is actually quite revolutionary.
Wow.
I hope that in Canada today, you can go into Transact and you can use Transact and exchange your values in Transact for the services that you want to consume. Okay, whether you want to go and get a haircut from your local hairdresser, or you want to buy shoes, or you want to buy a dress. But all the parties have to be part of the community and will enable to their goods and services with a singular instrument of exchange being the Lumi. That's very important.
At this appropriate time.
Yes, and thank you for that, Dr. Linus. One more question I have in terms of because many persons here came to me with this question and not sure of the answers, but I know you may have that at this time. Conversion, in terms of converting the Lumi to our current currency here. Example, if I have one Lumi and I want to give change, how does that work? Or would I be able to go and convert that money on the Transact system in order to get it in Canadian currency?
Okay, let me just explain that again. If you are in Canada and you want to make a payment in Canadian dollar value, then what you can do is you would select Canadian dollars, and then you would enter the amount that you want to pay in Canadian dollars. Say, for example, you go into a restaurant and your bill comes up to 200 Canadian dollars. So you will simply go and select Canadian dollars in Transact, you enter 200, and you then pay and send 200 Canadian dollars to the owner of the restaurant. Now, the underlying, what we are doing is providing you with a local currency experience so that you don't actually need to convert, but you can simply use your Lumi to pay your bill anyway. This is the advantage. If you now travel to Nigeria, when you arrive in Nigeria, all you have to do is select Nigerian Naira. And you can do the same payment to members of the ecosystem that are able and willing to accept Lumi as their payment instrument. But we don't actually provide outright conversion from Lumi into any local fiat currency at this point in time, because we believe it is more valuable to actually keep your values in Lumi. Let me tell you why that is so important. If you go to, I went to Sierra Leone, for example, about 2 years ago. And while I was in Sierra Leone about 2 years ago, about 2 to 3 years ago, the £1 was equivalent to about 10,000 Sierra Leone. Now, we went back to Sierra Leone last year, and while in Sierra Leone last year, our pound is equivalent to about 15,000 Sierra Leone. So what that means is that if you had stored your money in Sierra Leone, you would have lost about 50% of its value. Okay. Now, I was talking to somebody still in Sierra Leone last month, and I asked them the question, how many Sierra Leone 25,000. And so you look at the decline. If you wanted to acquire £1 2 to 3 years ago, you would have spent 10,000 Sierra Leone. A year later, you have to spend 15,000. 2 or 3 years, 5,000. And so this is what is causing the destruction of value in people's savings across the country. It is a crisis beyond proportion. What that means is that you cannot confidently save money from your child's birth in preparation for them to go into university at the age 18. Because by that time, guess what? You would have lost substantial value in the buying power. So we don't actually encourage people to convert into the local currencies, but we provide a mechanism for them to enjoy a local currency experience when using the Lumi. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Dr. Linus. And I think because, time is going on us at the moment, so hopefully you can join us. You can join again and with, pardon, Gada?
No, sorry, it's Mike. I'm just seeing us needing at least 2 hours for this program, guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna have to try and figure out what program, because the questions we will have to throw at Dr. Linus and other guests who will bring to this platform, we will definitely need to have that amount of time to get through with our questions.
I totally
but
agree.
You asked that question, Janet. That's the reigning questions on most of our mind, and it just sometimes goes to show the limited information we have as it relates to finance and how we operate in our own ecosystem to keep the value of what we have. We were trained in that capacity. So the first question on the top of most of my brothers and sisters is how do we exchange the Lumi to fiat? I was asked that question today, and I could answer that question comfortably today. If I'm going to be exchanging my Lumi in any format, it would have to be with some asset value, maybe land or a building of some value. I would not be exchanging my Lumi currency for any fiat currency, and that's just the reality behind it.
And I'm gonna second that with you, Mike, definitely, because when initially started, it was for us to trade amongst development, not necessarily to convert it to a fiat currency.
It would just completely, we will just be giving away. We will be demonstrating exactly what is happening on the continent being raided today. We're exchanging the value from the continent for paper-backed money with zero value.
Yes, and I listened to VPM Johnson at one point when he gave a presentation, and what he says, when slavery was abolished, we were given political freedom. We were given
we weren't given
religious, but not economics.
Not economical freedom. But we just have our work cut out for us, and for us here, Janet, we're here in Jamaica. Jamaica Luminaire Secretariat has held that baton from day one. Dr. Linus can attest to that. We have held that baton to put that infrastructure in place with the work and hands, guided by Mr. Johnston himself and Mr. Brown, Clifton Brown. Both gentlemen is just two tremendous persons who guided us, the initiative to get this project on the road, to have us collaborating our time, effort, relentlessly for 3 years. We've been working at this, and Dr. Linus can tell you we have had challenges, and I've always said, hey, what is a project without obstacles?
Correct.
We have tried many of these obstacles to get where we are today. We will use this platform going forward to have it spread to all the knowledge as to what we're about and what we're doing as a people, to bring what Dr. Linus had as a thought process in his head. And Chief Samako also had a thought process in his head also, to see it manifest to what it is today. It's really an honor to be a part of it.
Yeah. Myself too, Mike, I've decided to stick with it regardless of what obstacles, because when you believe in a nation, when you believe in yourself, you believe in persons, that's the only way we can come together to make this happen. And I will continue to be on the journey to ensure that hopefully one day, we can be sitting back and enjoying the fruits.
Yep, definitely. Well, I remember when I came on board as the marketing director for Jamaica Luminaires, I sat down. I can remember I sat back in my chair because we were all working from home, and I started to think, how would we be able to market a product like this? Or would we be able to market a product where we have a tangible digital currency, and not only that, but to get our brothers and sisters to start to be trained in this financial era, where most of us just start finance was just to have a bank account and put some money inside there and save and go back there and pull it out to use it to just buy something. When I didn't do finance in school, but when I started to look at what true finance is and to understand what it really is, I fully grasped where my people were. For those of us who are on the continent and those of us who are in the diaspora. I mean, when I looked at it, I could just tell everybody that we would be left behind if someone like Dr. Linus didn't come along to say, hey, let's put this together, get it together, and Chief Samaka with a brilliant idea of creating that Lumi so that we, as melanated people, can start the drive to get all of us back into this financial inclusive.
Yes, and it's not just about the currency, how I see it and how I see Africa is moving and the direction it's going. It's not just about the currency. There are other components, but again, as you said, Mike, we need more than an hour.
Well,
if I may just add this,
yes.
Dr. Linus, I remember when we started. Can Doc hear me? I remember about 3 years ago, when I first heard about the Lumi and the Swiffin platform, I went on the internet and I typed in Lumi, and I can tell you guys, absolutely nothing came up. I dare all our listeners today to simply type that in Google. Just now, right now. Stop what you're doing, type Lumi currency into Google search engine and read what comes up.
As I said, every single week we will read a chapter out of this book, and this week we had the privilege of the doctor, and I hope that this is not the last we will have interaction with him, which I know it's not, because he is very passionate about what he's doing and what he's offering to our brothers and sisters, and we love the fact that we have brothers and sisters who are willing to go into their thinking box and think outside of what is being provided and come up with these genius avenues for us to take advantage of. So, Doctor, I have about 3 to 4 minutes leave, and you to put the icing on the cake before you leave. But I don't know if Janet want to say anything or Mike want to say anything, because I want you to have the last word. But Janet, do you want to say anything and then pass it on to Mike?
Yes, what I'm going to share is that today was so exciting when I spoke with Dr. Linus, because I was talking to him about my personal Lumi. And I couldn't remember the number. I could not remember my Lumi account. And he goes, "What name did you register with?" I gave him. Bam! He was able to pull up my both accounts and send me my information on my WhatsApp.
I hope I'm going to call Doctor, get my information pull up, because I register from day one. So
Yes. So once you have a name and you're registered, I think maybe a few letters into your name, it's gonna come up.
Marvelous.
Right. So it's a powerful platform. So I wanted to share that they're on their way. We just have to, as a nation, as a person, as a people, let's work to get this thing going. And again, as I said, and this is my motto for 23, coming together, working together, we'll all achieve.
Doctor, Mike. Mike, you wanna say something?
Well, yeah. Let me just thank somebody. Microphone probably needs to mute.
Sorry,
yeah,
I muted.
Thanks much. Well, I just wanted to thank the entire team from the Jamaica Luminaires to be able to bring us to this level where we are today. We have been through an entire journey to bring us to this level where we are integrating so many different brothers and sisters in their own personal beliefs, but we need to be able to put aside our beliefs and let us work for this one drive to get us all included in this financial inclusion. And just to thank Dr. Linus for taking his time out where he is now. It's way hours, and I'm really, really honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Dr. Linus, you could put the icing on the cake as to your presentation here tonight, and how best people can follow you and be more connected with the Lumi through the Swiffin platform.
Thank you so much. It's such a great honor to be here, and I want to thank you for the great work that you're doing in informing our people and our communities. Janet, Mike, excellent work. I mean, I can testify to the fact that I was there from the onset, and I remember the late night meetings that we used to have to get things moving in Jamaica and GLS. Today, when you look at the Jamaican map, it is covered everywhere. People with Lumi accounts. So we've made such tremendous progress thanks to the collaborative work that is going on, and that has been going on, and that will continue to go on. The one thing that we must all bear in mind is that it is a first. We will make mistakes, there will be challenges, but we need to go around those challenges, over them, through them, around them. Most important importantly focus our mind to find solutions to address the problems that meet the challenges of our people, wherever they are. We need to localize those problems and find localized solutions. That's our focus. We will not shift from it. It is about inclusion, about the provision of a common instrument of exchange so no one gets left out. And this can only be possible through the kind of collaborative movement that we now see is in motion, firmly in motion. I talked about the fact that there was a stadium today that was filled with people. They had to have double sessions. That kind of movement is going on somewhere right now. We need to keep it going. And I hope this will be the first of many sessions that we will have here, because education is an important part of what we're doing. We need to inform, we need to educate, so that people can make tangible and informed choices on how to participate and use the Lumi. It's a transformational tool. It's a transformational instrument. And as any tool, it is left to the person that is holding that tool on how to use it to create value. By collaborating and staying on this journey together, we will come up with the answers on how to use our Lumi to create real economic independence and generational wealth both in our time and well into the future generation. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. It's such a great honor.
Yes.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Mike, you wanted to say something?
Well, just to add that we need to schedule to have Dr. Linus here maybe once a month. Forward, Dr. Linus, if you could find that time.
I agree, Mike. I agree.
We need to have it here once a month. Whether it's the first of the month or the last of the month, whatever it is, Wednesday, or we have the show, and just have him to iron out some of these issues that we may and challenges that we may have with questions and stuff going forward.
But
carry on. I'll give you two. What you said, Janet? What is it you want to say? All right, Janet was just coming. But once again, thanks to... Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that persons, you can now connect on the Swiffin platform and you'll see the briefing. There's a link there with the briefing for question and answers every day. So if you're missing meetings or need information, just go into the Swiffin. It's connect.swiffin.com. Click on the briefing and you'll get all your questions answered there.
Once again, thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much to Mike Larry. Thank you so much to Janet. And we are very much happy that the Lumi is getting this light. It's a beautiful seed that has been planted. And all it needs is the right nourishment, the right sunlight, and it will grow. Where there's no vision, our people shall perish. And I give credence to you, Doctor, and the likes of Chief Samoko and all our Maroon brothers and sisters who have sacrificed their time, their livelihood, and of course the knowledge base to bring forth the currency. There is so much other avenues that need to be fulfilled. Our resources is being taken out for granted as far as the soil, or water, and we're utilizing the sunlight. The wind is also another part of our resources, but each one can help to be a part of this progress. Once again, thank you so much for being on board, and this has been Lumi Matters, where the only thing that matters financially is Lumi. This is yours truly, Rascal. I'd say until next week, Wednesday, please keep it locked. We will be doing a rebroadcast of this program for those who did not get to partake. So keep it right here.
Study to show yourself approved. You know what I mean? You want the truth? Shoot about the money. Telling you the truth about the money. Yeah. You want to shoot for the money? Only if you know the truth, man. Okay. Shit. In the 1940s, money and gold were a couple. Yeah. Everything did I work well. until America start hustling. The other countries start shuffling, demanding but them gold on the double. Now in a 1971, President Nixon made the money and the gold decouple now. Them money no back to buy nothing, when it used to be back to buy gold. But they keep lying to the people. Now finally the truth has been told. Them make a fiat currencies, no transparency. No Lumi we spending, backed by renewable energy. Lumi, tell you about the Lumi. It's not a fiat, nor a cryptocurrency. It's underwritten by 100 kilowatt hours of solar energy. Shit, convertible to 4 grains of gold. Wait, 0.2592 grams. No, a 15.96 US equal to 1. So the money no back to buy nothing, but it used to be back to buy gold. But they keep lying to the people. No, finally the truth has been told. Them little fiat currencies, no transparency. No Lumi we spending, backed by renewable energy. Shit, I was chosen to shine the light bright on the chosen ones. Yeah, I ain't from the west, from the south, and from the east, man. Africa are not wrong. Me no need no US, me no need no pound. The Lumi dollars put diamonds on the crown. I don't give a damn who on the throne, cause I'm not small, I'm fully grown. Hey, the money no back to buy nothing, when it used to be backed by gold. But they keep lying to the people. Now finally the truth has been told. Them little fiat currencies, no transparency. No Lumi we spending, backed by renewable energy. Them money no back to buy nothing, used to be backed to buy gold. They keep lying to the people. But finally the truth has been told. Them little fiat, no transparency. No Lumi we spending, Lumi. Shit.
Smoke shop.
Put on to you climb on me, like my church sister call me.
Fresh Radio Vibe. SMGTNT in association with the State of African Diaspora, SOAD, presents Lumi Matters each Wednesday, p.m. to 7 p.m. Hosted by Janet Lovely, International Business Development Officer and a representative for the Lumi via Canada. Learn how the Lumi matters in business, barter exchange, travel investment, saving accountability. Listen to the insiders about Lumi Matters each Wednesday at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Only on Freshradiovybz. Listen now and stay connected. Lumi Matters. Lumi Matters.
I suggest you check ball right now to line up those drinks, because we're